Hello everyone, nubkeks here, welcome back to Nub Star Rail, and in today's video we've got the two new banners. Jade and Argenti are live, wrapping up the patch. And in today's video I'm going to give you my thoughts on whether or not they are worth pulling for. It's a spicy one, right? They are two erudition characters. It's almost, but not quite, you know, the best pure fiction character of the past versus the best one of the future. I say it's almost that because I think it's a little bit questionable whether or not Argenti was the best of the past when you do have characters like Herta and Himiko in there. But, well, look, let's dive in. You can already tell, I think, some of the direction I'm going with this. First of all, let's look at Jade so we can see how she works. The key thing about Jade is she is really designed to be a sub-DPS is in AoE content, i.e. mostly pure fiction, preferably against 5 enemies like this. This is her ideal spot. This is where she's designed to thrive. So her skill works very much like Ron May or Robin, right? You put a buff. This time, unlike them, they buff your whole team. She puts a buff, a debt collector, on a specific unit. Preferably someone like an erudition, like Herta, as we have in the showcase here, is going to be hitting lots of enemies very, very frequently. We're going to put them together. But that debt collector, it's going to give a big speed boost to your debt collector unit. Whenever your debt collector unit does an attack, there'll be some extra quantum damage, much like Ting Yun does with her her skill, actually. It's going to add some extra quantum damage when Jade attacks. And I'm actually blocking it. Well, woe is me. If we move me up here so we can see the stacks. But Jade also gets stacks for her follow-up, and she gets stacked whenever her debt collector attacks, which is, well, pretty cool, right? So simple enough, straightforward. I think we're at the end. This was a great way to end it. Whip with Jade, and they go down. Let's rewind so you can see that. Yeah, this is basically her key. She's SP positive, right? You spend 1 SP every 3 turns, and then you do 2 turns of basic attacking. Her basic attack is a blast. You're buffing up with Debt Collector. One of your other units, when they do more, and they hit anyone, you do more damage. The more enemies they hit, the more stacks of her follow-up you get. So the more follow-ups you do, her follow-up is an AoE, her ultimate's an AoE. She really wants to be in AoE scenarios. The perfect pair, like Herta, is really a perfect pairing for her. Every time Herta attacks, she's doing a full AoE. Herta's follow-ups are also full AoEs. Her ult is a full AoE, so we can see that Jade's stacks are just going to go crazy. Here we should probably have done Jade's ultimate first, but there you go. And again, it's a great showcase they put together here. You've got a team-wide buffer with Asta, you've got Herta and Lynx, and it's just absolutely slamming. It just rips through. Jade, funny enough, she's actually fairly straightforward in that sense. You don't actually do much with Jade. You put Debt Collector on the ideal person, like your other damage dealer, and then Jade is actually quite slow, and she just sort of automatically fires off her follow-up attacks whenever the stacks build up. You should just fire her ult pretty much whenever it's ready, because she generates, as you can see, she generates a ton of energy from her follow-up and from hitting enemies. Yeah, it's simple, it's straightforward. Now, in terms of one small thing I forgot to mention, the Debt Collector, you can see it with Herta. Whenever they take a turn, they will lose a tiny bit of HP. Don't think it makes much of a difference. The biggest change it does is that it synergizes incredibly well with Blade. So that's a cool little synergy that you can have with her. Put her with Blade, and every time he's going or attacks, it's going to sap some of his HP, which will build up his follow-up more. So that's a very powerful combo. I think the crucial thing with Jade is to note that I think 3 enemy targets, 3 is the bare minimum to be viable. If you're fighting 2 enemies, or God forbid 1, the damage, the usefulness of this character will just fall off a cliff. She's sort of like Topaz for AoE. So, yeah, that's going to be a problem. I think she will have some niche uses, obviously, in Memory of Chaos and Apocalyptic Shadow. Sometimes you will be fighting versions with lots of enemies, but it's fairly rare. She definitely seems like a bit of a pure fiction specialist. Now, I want to jump over. This might... makes it maybe hard to recommend in a sense. Is it worth pulling a character just for pure fiction? Well, I looked at this. This is a poll from another YouTuber called Natsan. How hard do you think pure fiction is overall, not just the most recent one? 10% of people find it easy, 20% find it hard, a bit hard, but always get full points. But 70% of people find it a struggle. I am now at the point where I've gotten full points now twice in a row, but it's been very tough. It's not easy. So that, to me, does make it somewhat easy to recommend Jade. If you are one of the apparently 70% of people that find pure fiction very tough, it seems to me the community is very against pulling for pure fiction specialists, and that's certainly, I think, the case with Jade and Argenti both. They will help you a lot in pure fiction, but they're going to be very, very niche outside of that. That, though, might be worth doing. If you can't beat pure fiction, like, Jade is in... hopefully that's being clear. She is incredibly good for pure fiction. The more enemies there are, the more damage she does. You pair her up with these other top-tier pure fiction characters like Herta, Himiko, which are easily enough accessible. Herta, certainly you get for free. Himiko, quite likely that you'll get her. I don't have her yet, but, you know, a lot of people will. So, yeah, I think that Jade is absolutely... I think she's well worth recommending for pure fiction. If you are struggling, you know, I really would consider a pure fiction character if you have a huge problem with it. There's always a possibility, it's a bit of copium to be honest, but there's a possibility in the future that they could add another mode. Like, I'd say at the moment we've got 2 modes, which quite favors single target and blast damage dealers. You know, Memory of Chaos, Apocalyptic Shadow. Like, let's say Boot Hill excels in both of those, but Boot Hill is not great in pure fiction. And let's say Topaz is another great example. Topaz, very comparable to Jade as a sub DPS. Topaz excels in Memory of Chaos and in Apocalyptic Shadow, but, you know, she can sometimes have a little bit of a niche in pure fiction with very specific buffs, but it's not really her forte. I think it's going to be the same thing with Jade, but you're getting less game mode. She's really excels in pure fiction. It's very niche in the other two. There might be another mode in the future which also caters towards these more AoE, the erudition style characters, but it's not here yet. Much like Topaz, I think Topaz got a lot on her rerun, was way more meta relevant than she was on her initial run. I'm expecting the same thing to be true for Jade, but I do also think right now she will hard carry a pure fiction team, no problem. Slap her in with Herta or Himiko or anyone like that with a team-wide buffer and just go to town. Argenti, similar, but different style. I think Argenti is much more of a hyper carry. Unfortunately, the showcases, these older character showcases are much worse. The teams they give you and the enemies you're fighting aren't as good. But Argenti is I think, hang on, let's go back here. Argenti is more hyper carry focused. He really thrives off of energy regeneration. I think hyper carry's been quite neglected recently, and I think that affects Argenti as well. It's a bit of a bummer, but it's something that might switch in the future. Like, if we do see a 5-star Harmony that does what Ting Yun does, that's a huge boost to, you know, the Ting Yun plus Sparkle hyper carry teams. That could be massive, and that could massively shoot Argenti up as well. There's been tons of sets that boost follow-up teams, right? For follow-up characters, like what? There's like 3 planar ornament? I don't know. Like for Jade, there's obviously Salsato, there's Duran, and there's like Sigonia as well. Like there's been a lot that are really nice for follow-up characters. The old hyper carry teams have been fairly neglected with follow-up and break, etc. They might come back in the future. And yeah, look, any character that's boosting energy with strong single target buffs is going to do well for Argenti. He hits hard, he does a lot of damage AoE. Again, he's got a similar problem where he's fairly niche. And I think his main problem is he's sort of sandwiched between Boot Hill, who is fairly recent, and Yun Li, who's coming up next, who's a physical destruction. And as a physical destruction, she is highly likely to be better than him in MOC and in Apocalyptic Shadow. And she's also likely to be pretty decent. I've heard that she's somewhat like a Clara, and Clara is pretty decent for some of the pure fictions. Not all of them, but some of them she's pretty decent. So if that is the case, Yun Li comes in as, you know, perhaps doing enough in pure fiction for you, like Argenti would, while being just better overall, which is certainly a bit of a problem for poor Argenti. I think he's such a cool character, but I do have to say, I find it hard to recommend him. I would not be going out of my way to recommend him. I think Jade has a lot more potential, and certainly we know that Robin is coming out soon. We'll probably have a rerun soon enough as well. Within a few months, it's pretty likely Robin will get her rerun, and Robin is the perfect character to combo with Jade and whatever. Now, if we look at the particular banners as well, so let me pause the replay here and we look at the particular banners. The banner is a bit shocking, to be honest. It's not great. Now, Asta is good. Asta is definitely good. And I think that Asta, in fact, let me jump over to Asta right here. Asta is an excellent support to pair with Jade. She's a team-wide buffer. She's sort of your budget version of Ron, May, and Robin, who are the current limited harmonies. I think one of the problems with Asta, but that the banner solves, is that Asta is quite reliant on her Eidolons, where her charging stacks won't reduce. She starts getting more energy regen. Again, the charging stacks lost each turn reduces as well. This makes her more SP efficient, more SP positive. She otherwise will guzzle your SP, but I think she's actually quite a good combo with Jade because Jade is quite SP positive. So I think the two of them go together. So that's quite a nice banner pairing. That's not bad. But that being said, Natasha, in my opinion, is probably the worst character in Honkai Star Rail. I think with Lynx and with even, Bailu, if you pull Bailu, Japard, if you pull Japard, but Lynx and Gallagher, I think are 4-star harmony characters that vastly outclass Natasha. I just don't see any reason why anyone would ever build this character. Like, there's no redeeming quality to her, unfortunately, at the moment, in terms of playing for the meta or anything like that. So Natasha, I feel like, is a totally wasted character, and that really sucks. Serval's not bad. Serval's sort of like a budget Jing Yuan, really. And so, yeah, Serval can be decent as a lightning attacker. So that might fill in, reasonably well for you. And she'd be a decent combo with Jade as well, right? She'd do okay. So you might use her to Himiko on one side. You could use Jade with Serval on the other. Like, that could be viable when you're running up against lightning weak enemies. I'd say she's not a high priority character to build by any means. And I'd say Serval is also much like Jade, is quite pure fiction focused. You'd hopefully have Jade just carry it by herself, really. But yeah, it's a fairly weak banner, I would say. It's not great. Asta is quite good, but for anyone that picked up, Robin and Ron May were both run recently. If you've got the two of them, I think it's very unlikely you're going to be using Asta. So this banner kind of sucks. So yeah, that's where we're at. For me, Argenti, I think Argenti is a hard sell, especially with Yoon Lee coming next. I think certainly there is absolutely no harm in waiting. We should have the official live stream in like a week or two. I'm not sure. You can let me know in the comment exactly when it is. But the official live stream showing off Yoon Lee and what's his name? Zhao Chu, I think is how we say it. But they will have their proper full reveals on the live stream. And we'll also see the characters that are going to be rerun with them as well. So when we've got all of that info, that can help you make the decision. It's the nice thing about being the second character banners in a patch is you get all the information about what's coming in the next patch before these end. So you can make a full and informed decision. You'll see all the core facts about Yoon Lee before the Argenti banner ends. So you can make that decision. But I think he is a hard one to recommend, honestly. I suspect Yoon Lee is going to be straight up generally a better, just more recommended, unless you really, really struggle at pure fiction. And if you really, really struggle at pure fiction, I honestly think that Jade is more likely to be more useful. So yeah, that's sort of where we're at. Let me know, what do you think about this one? Personally, I did actually, I did a risky game myself. I pulled some warps on the Firefly banner, hoping to not get a 5-star, which is a terrible idea. But for Gallagher, well, for me, let me tell you, it worked out great. My Gallagher, who I've been working on, we got him up too, which is beautiful. He's E6 now, which is just lovely, from the Ron May banner and then pulling some extra on Firefly. If we got Firefly, it wouldn't have been the worst. We're working on his gear. He's doing well. We're working on the traces, I think. Oh, I do actually. I'm working on this one. I need a bit more credits. We're out of the old credits, but we're working on him. We've got lots of gear to roll up, etc. So he's going to be mega fast. We've rolled speed like crazy. But yeah, look, Gallagher's looking good for me. Anyway, that's where I'm at. But yeah, I think both of these are a hard recommend. Jade would be my preference. And again, like, this is the big thing that brings me back to it, though, is this will be a never-ending struggle, right? I think for a lot of people going, I don't want to pull the pure fiction specialist because they only specialize in pure fiction. Pure fiction is really hard, but I won't pull them, so it's really hard. So I won't pull them, so it's really hard. And it's just this never-ending cycle, right? If you want to actually do well in pure fiction, you might just have to pull characters that specifically excel in pure fiction. Like that eventually might just have to be the way it goes. Now, hopefully you wouldn't need to do that, and you could get away with maybe Herta and Himiko, and like if you've got like Robin or Ron May, they are so universal, they fit in really, etc. But yeah, like again, this is the main thing for me. If you are sat there going, man, I just can never ever do well in pure fiction, but then you're also saying, I'm just not going to pull a character that's good at pure fiction, you're digging yourself a hole. So that's my only thoughts on that. But yeah, personally, gonna skip. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think, and I'll see y'all next time. Goodbye.